Here's Marlene Booth on Pidgin, the voice of Hawaii.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
存在或不存在係個問題。
Ang makairal o hindi, yan ang tanong.
Inahemea ay olehemea olea, o yan o kaninaw.
죽느냐 사느냐 그것이 문제로다.
Ser ou não ser? Eis a questão.
Ikiru beki ka, inaka. それが問題です。
Stay or not stay? That's the question, eh?
My late co-producer, Kanalu Young, had the idea to do this film. I had thought we were investigating Hawaiian immersion and the revival of the Hawaiian language. And I spent a lot of time investigating that. And when I came back to tell Kanalu about the fruits of my investigation, he listened very patiently. And then he sort of leaned back in his wheelchair, as he often did when he was about to disagree strongly. And he said, I think we should look at Pidgin. And I said, why? And he, this strong Hawaiian man who loved speaking the Hawaiian language and having it come out of his own mouth, said, without Pidgin, I would cease to be whole. And that stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, that's a powerful statement. And if he feels so strongly, I think there must be something here. So I'll go back and investigate.
It's the language of Hawaii. I mean, I don't want to say the Hawaiian language not important. That's the indigenous people's language, and that's great. But the Hawaii we know today, for all the immigrants that come from all over the place, Japan, Philippines, China, Portugal, when come together, that's the language.
We were stumped, actually, for quite a while. And it helped in being stumped that Pidgin speakers were reluctant to go on camera speaking Pidgin. There's such a strong sense bred into people of shame about speaking Pidgin that though people feel very much as though it's the language of their hearts, they didn't want to be recorded for posterity speaking it.
At the time when they started the plantations in Hawaii, the power on the plantations were primarily English speakers. The immigrant groups do not know each other's language. They're different languages. So in order to communicate with each other, they are using English or whatever English they can hear.
So let's say a Japanese immigrant and a Portuguese immigrant trying to speak English to each other, but throwing in features from their own first languages as well. That's how Pidgins start.
One person who was no problem and whom we understood would be in the film from the beginning was Lee Tonauchi, the poet and writer and essayist, and the man called the Pidgin Gorilla, and for good reason.
Oh yeah, it's pretty much I just talk like how I always talk, yeah. I remember when I was growing up in school, the teachers always used to tell me, oh Lee, you write like how you talk. So I was, oh happy, I said, oh, that's good, huh? And they said, no, that's bad. It's funny, because my grandmother once, she told me, you know, Lee, you're not supposed to use Pidgin. And yet, she the one, huh? She the one who gonna teach me all the Pidgin, because she grew up in Plantation, huh? Yeah, so she said, don't talk Pidgin. But even when she said, don't talk Pidgin, that's Pidgin.
There's a certain chronology where you can begin at the plantations, or even pre-plantations, and carry it through post-Hawaiian Renaissance, where writers and speakers of Pidgin began to look at their own languages in the wake of the rebirth of the Hawaiian language. Something I think a lot of people don't know about were the institution of the English standard schools. Started in the 1920s, in which students had to pass an oral examination in order to get in.
There was a lot of pressure from parents, European American parents, Caucasian parents who had come from the mainland and did not like the language that was being spoken in the regular schools. And so with all that pressure, the administrators felt they had to do something.
They would set up special schools, English standard schools, for haoles and kids who talk like haoles. If you was local, you could get in. First, had to pass the test but.
So in the beginning, these schools were dominated by mostly haole kids from the mainland. Over time, more and more Asian students were accepted and were part of the school.
The teacher would immediately recognize the way you speak, and she would know that you're not going to speak the King's English, and we may not want you around. So they'd split my family up. They wouldn't let my brother and sister in at first, but eventually they got us all in.
I think in a lot of ways, Pidgin in Hawaii is like the air in Hawaii. You speak it and you don't give it a moment's thought, and the film invites viewers to think about Pidgin. In my mind's eye and Kanalu's mind's eye, I think it was an epic film, you know, that was going to tell all the stories about everybody. And instead, I think it's a smaller story that focuses on the language and on the people who speak it and on what it is about Pidgin that seems to make it so much of the glue that holds Hawaii together.